Finally, a dar. System.
A low growl resonated from the woods, as if whatever was hiding there had been set loose. Cold sweat broke out across my forehead, and panic surged. This was just the beginning. I drove faster, the truck shaking as gravel rebelled beneath the tires. The growl echoed in my mind, pressing against my thoughts like a vice. I didn't want to look back, but I couldn't help it. My eyes swung to the rear-view mirror, desperately searching for any signs of movement. Nothing followed, at least not yet. But the stillness in the mirror was unnerving. I forced myself to focus on the road ahead, the headlights cutting through the darkness. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches swaying gently in the night. The woman's warning echoed in my ears. Turn back before it's too late. I pressed my foot harder on the gas. The landscape blurred past, but all I could think about was that figure standing by the roadside. I had to know who she was, what she meant. My heart raced with questions that clawed at the edges of my sanity. Suddenly, the headlights got something on the side of the road. I squinted, my stomach twisting. A jacket lay discarded on the gravel, a dark, heavy coat that sent a chill through me. I couldn't ignore it. I slowed down to get a better look. As I approached, I noticed more. A shoe, a bag, smaller items scattered as if someone had fled in a hurry. My fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I was about to turn back, to keep driving and leave this nightmare behind, when a flash of movement caught my eye. It was her, the woman from before. She stood at the edge of the trees, the same piercing gaze locked onto me. There was something different now. A frantic energy hummed in the air. I rolled down the window, feeling the rush of cold air against my skin. What happened? What's going on? My voice was shaky, but I had to know. "Please, you have to listen," she shouted, her breath visible like mist. "You're not safe here. It's not just me. They're watching." I searched her face for answers, something, anything that would explain the chaos swirling around me. "Who is watching? What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding painfully in my chest. But before she could respond, a piercing shriek sliced through the silence, echoing from the trees. My blood ran cold. It wasn't human. This time I didn't just feel hunted, I felt cornered. "Get out of here," she yelled, urgency crashing over her features. "You need to go." I didn't need to be told twice. I punched the gas again, gravel spitting out behind me. The woman's figure faded quickly into the dark trees, and I couldn't shake the feeling of her gaze following me. But then I heard it, a sound that clawed at my spine. Fast, rustling footsteps followed closely behind, a low growl growing louder as the strength of whatever pursued me became more palpable. The road twisted ahead, and panic gripped me as I rounded a corner.
System.
The air grew thick. You weight the silencio bore down on me. Panic gripped my chest. I was not alone. Someone or something was watching from the shadows, hidden but ever present. I felt their eyes on me, and dread crawled up my spine. That's when I heard it again, the same piercing, inhuman howl. It was closer now, and my instincts screamed at me to flee. I slammed down the gas pedal, feeling the truck lurch beneath me as the headlights flickered ominously. But the darkness ahead seemed to swallow the road whole. Just as I thought I might escape, the engine stuttered, faltering. The roar of the howl filled the air again. Then everything went dark. I jolted awake to the sound of my own voice screaming. The cabin was cloaked in darkness, and I could hardly grasp what had just happened. The engine had died. My heart raced as I grasped the steering wheel, enveloped in utter silence, broken only by the sound of my panicked breaths. I fumbled for my phone, praying for a glimmer of light. With the screen illuminated, I looked around. Still no sign of life. The truck was just as I had left it, parked awkwardly on the side of the road. My pulse quickened when I remembered the howl, the terrifying noise that felt like it was still echoing in my ears. As I searched for my bearings, I noticed the gravel crunched beneath something, a movement just outside the reach of my phone's light. I switched it off and strained my ears. The whisper of rustling leaves interrupted the silence. My breathing stuttered. I had to know what it was. I opened the door slowly, the metallic creak echoing like a gunshot in the stillness. Cold air rushed in, biting at my skin. I climbed out, squinting into the pitch black, my heart hammering in my chest. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. No response, but the rustle, now louder, seemed almost mocking. I shuffled forward cautiously, each step feeling like a mistake. My foot slipped on a slick patch of mud, and I nearly fell. Recovering, I steadied myself against the truck, peering into the darkness. My instincts urged me to get back inside, but curiosity and a foolish sense of bravery pulled me deeper into the fog. That's when I saw it, a flickering light in the distance. It was back, pulsing rhythmically amid the shadows, and this time it was brighter. I felt drawn to it, a moth to an ominous flame. I took a hesitant step forward, the fear beginning to melt into something darker, something hungry. The sound grew louder, a combination of distant howls and piercing whispers that seemed to beckon me closer. I stumbled on uneven ground, and in that moment of distraction, I heard something behind me, a footstep, soft but unmistakable. I whirled around, scanning the darkness, but saw nothing. "Who's there?" My voice cracked, fear bubbling to the surface. I felt exposed, vulnerable to whatever might be lurking in the blackness. Then, a flash, a silhouette darted in my peripheral vision. My breath hitched. I didn't stick around to find out see it was friend or foe. Panic-fueled adrenaline surged through me as I sprinted back toward the truck, my legs pumping as fast as they could carry me. But just as I reached for the handle, the flickering light vanished again. My heart plummeted. How was I supposed to find my way? A gut-wrenching howl erupted once more, closer now. I dove into the truck, slamming the door shut and locking it. My fingers trembled as I fumbled to restart the engine. It sputtered, then coughed. I was out of options. If I didn't get out of this nightmare soon, I wouldn't have to worry about anything at all. As the headlights finally flickered back to life, illuminating the darkness around me, I felt a cold dread settle in. That's when I saw them. Eyes, dozens of them, all watching, waiting in the dark. I held my breath, frozen in my seat, as those eyes glinted back at me. They were unblinking, shining like buttons in the darkness, and the weight of their gaze sent chills down my spine. My heart raced again, pounding against my chest. I felt like prey, hunted and helpless. I glanced at the dashboard. The headlights flickered weakly, struggling to pierce the thick night. I needed to move, but panic clamped around my throat. Forcing myself to look away from the eyes, I slammed my foot onto the gas pedal. The truck jolted forward, and I barely kept it steady as I maneuvered away from the eerie gathering. But then, just as abruptly, I felt a jolt. The engine sputtered again and coughed, the headlights dimming. "No, no, no!" I shouted, pounding the steering wheel. I pushed the accelerator again, willing the truck to respond. The last thing I needed was to stall out here, exposed. Miraculously, the engine roared back to life. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. I dared a glance in the rearview mirror. The eyes had vanished. Adrenaline surged through me as I blinked in disbelief. Where had they gone? Shaking, I fought to regain my composure. This wasn't just a bad dream. It was real. I took a deep breath and focused on the road ahead. The dimly lit highway was the only path leading me away from whatever terror lurked in the dark. I had to keep moving. With shaky hands, I turned the steering wheel, driving faster. The trees whizzed by, distorted shadows that seemed to reach out toward me. The road felt endless, and every bump made me feel even more on edge. I had to escape this nightmare. But then, ahead, I saw another flicker, a beacon snapping in and out of view like a warning light. A sudden surge of dread filled me. What was it now? I slowed down and squinted, feeling the tension in my chest tighten. A figure stepped into the beam of my headlights. My body went rigid. It was a woman, standing by the side of the road. She was shrouded in shadows, but I could make out her pale face, twisted with eerie calm. Her hair hung in disarray, her clothes tattered. She raised a hand, beckoning me closer.
"Help me," she mouthed, though no sound reached my ears. It was a haunting sight. I wanted to offer aid, but instinct told me to drive away. Instead, my foot hovered between the gas and the brake. I couldn't peel my eyes away from her. With every second, a shudder of dread ran through me. Why was she out here alone? Why now? Suddenly, there was noise. The howl split through the silence again, closer this time. My instincts screamed at me to move, to flee. I couldn't stay here, anchored by this woman's presence. "I can't!" I shouted at her, and slammed my foot down on the gas. The tires screeched, and I lurched past her. Through the rearview mirror, I saw her watching, her face blurred by the darkness. The howl crescendoed, echoing in my ears, mingling with the distant rustle of something just out of sight. I had a terrifying thought. What had I left behind? As I sped farther down the road, a shadow moved out of the corner of my eye. Gripping the wheel, I dared not look again. Whatever was out there wasn't done with me yet. Chapter 2. The engine roared beneath me as I pressed down on the accelerator. The truck surged forward, skipping over the cracked pavement as I tried to shake the horror from my mind. I couldn't stop thinking about her face, the way she had looked at me with a mix of desperation and calm. As I drove, my thoughts raced. Who was she? What was she doing out here? I stole glances around me, searching the trees and shadows for any sign of a threat. My breath came in quick bursts. I forced myself to focus on the road, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. Suddenly, the headlights began to flicker again, and I cursed under my breath. Not now. I glanced down at the dashboard. A warning light blinked ominously. My heart sank. I felt the engine sputter again, losing power. "Come on!" I yelled, slamming my fist against the wheel. The truck gasped, and the headlights dimmed, casting long shadows that danced along the road. Panic bubbled just below the surface. I couldn't stall now, not with whatever was out there, whoever, potentially hunting me down. But as I tried to coax the engine back to life, I saw movement in the trees ahead. It caught my eye, a darker shadow against the backdrop of night. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. Just a deer, or something worse? My instinct screamed at me to keep going, but I hesitated. Something compelled me to slow down, to approach. I couldn't ignore this strange pull. I pressed the brakes softly, bringing the truck to a stop about 20 feet from where I'd seen the shape. "Hello?" I called out, my voice quaking in the silence. Nothing answered me. The trees loomed high and dense, blocking any possible light from the moon above. I turned off the radio. With the engine still sputtering, the world around me felt suffocatingly quiet, heavy with dread. Then I heard it, a distinct rustling, like something was moving through the underbrush. I felt my heart race again. Is someone there? I could barely see, just vague outlines in the darkness. My mind raced with every possible scenario of what could be hiding there. Maybe it was just an animal, or perhaps I had crossed paths with something sinister. Then, out of nowhere, a figure crashed through the underbrush. A large, dark shape darted across the road. I gasped, adrenaline spiking as my pulse quickened. I flipped on the high beams in a desperate attempt to illuminate the figure, but just as the light hit, it vanished entirely. "What the hell?" I gasped, scanning the area frantically. It was gone. I felt exposed, sitting there in the middle of the road with nothing but my racing thoughts and an unstable truck. The growls returned, distant, low, vibrating through the air. They curled in my gut like a claw. Whatever was watching wasn't finished yet. I scanned the sides of the road, checking for anything moving in the shadows. Then my phone buzzed on the passenger seat, the sudden sound sharply cutting through the tension. I jumped, my heart leaping into my throat. Without thinking, I grabbed it, my fingers fumbling over the screen. I was desperate for a connection, something to pull me from this nightmare. The display lit up, illuminating a map notification. But while I waited for it to load, I glanced up and froze. Standing at the edge of the tree line, backlit by my headlights, was the woman. Her pale face, hauntingly calm, was etched into my vision like a warning, and I felt the icy grip of fear wrap around my spine again.
Then she raised a finger to her lips. "Shh," she mouthed, and my blood ran cold. Chapter 3. My hands trembled on the wheel. I didn't know what to do. The woman stood there, unblinking, each second stretching into an eternity. I searched for a way to reason with myself, maybe convince myself that she was harmless, but the relentless growling in the distance shattered my calm. "Please," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "What do you want?" I half expected her to answer, but she just pointed deeper into the woods, her finger trembling slightly. I looked away for a moment, my mind racing. Should I confront her? Ask her what was happening? Or was it my instinct to drive away, to escape this creeping dread? But the growls got louder, closer. My instincts kicked in. I couldn't sit here any longer. I shifted into drive, and the truck jolted forward. As I passed her, I looked in the rearview mirror. She stood still, watching, and my throat tightened. I was stuck in a nightmare, and there was no escaping it. The road became a blur as I pressed the accelerator harder. I glanced down at my phone, my only beacon of hope. The map was still loading, but I couldn't risk looking too long. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the bushes to my left. I swerved to the right, nearly losing control of the truck as I fought to keep it steady. My heart pounded. I felt like I was being hunted.
"Just get me out of here," I muttered, feeling claustrophobic in the cab as the trees closed in around me. I needed to get back to the main road. All I wanted was the safety of fellow travelers, streetlights, and open space. But then, through the chaos, I heard another sound. Giggling? It was faint, almost childlike, tainted by an undercurrent of malice. I'd read horror stories, watched movies. I recognized the danger in those sounds, and I felt a shiver of terror race through me. "Stop it," I said, trying to sound brave, but knowing the quaver in my voice betrayed me. My foot pressed harder on the gas, and I yelled into the night, "Who are you?" Then I saw it again. A shadow crossed the road right in front of me. I didn't have time to react. The truck slammed against something, and the impact jolted me forward. The airbag deployed, and my vision blurred with confusion. I pulled myself back together, stunned and disoriented. I quickly pulled the airbag from my face and tried to focus. Did I hit something? Was it the woman? As I peered out the windshield, my heart raced anew. I couldn't see anything. The road was empty. I took a deep breath and wiped the sweat from my brow. "This can't be real," I whispered, panic creeping back in. My phone buzzed again, and against my better judgment, I grabbed it. I needed to get away from here, needed to find help. That's when my heart sank. The map displayed a message: no service, no GPS signal. I was utterly alone. Then a knock echoed from the passenger side window, sharp and sudden. My blood turned to ice as I glanced over. The woman stood there, her face twisted in a savage grin, eyes wide and insatiable. "Shh," she said, a menacing gleam dancing in her eyes, and all I could think was that I had never been more terrified in my life. The engine sputtered, then roared back to life, a deafening sound that drowned out the chaos and confusion mounting inside my head. I slammed the gears into drive and stomped on the gas, the truck surging forward, jolting me back into action. I glanced in the mirror, but couldn't see the woman anymore, just darkness pressing against the lights of my truck, like a curtain closing in. But the air was thick with something oppressive. I could feel it coiling around me, pushing against my skin, urging me to panic. I gripped the wheel tighter, mentally calculating the safest route. The main road was my best chance, but it felt like I was driving through a tunnel of shadows where any second could bring the nightmare crashing back. Suddenly, a sound sliced through the silence. Twisted laughter grew louder, echoing through the woods alongside me. My heart raced faster than my truck could ever hope to go. I pressed the gas down harder, but the shadows around me remained unyielding, seemingly alive with whispers and threats. "Keep it together," I muttered, forcing breath past the lump in my throat. I had to stay focused. Just keep driving.
But it wasn't long before I spotted movement at the edge of the trees, just on the outskirts of my headlights. Figures flitted in and out of the darkness, shapes too quick to discern, too sinister to ignore. Were they people, or some other creature from whatever nightmarish dimension I had stumbled into? I didn't dare to look closer. Still, they pressed on, relentless in their pursuit. They encircled my truck like vultures, whispering in voices that seemed to coil through the air. "Why are you with her? Turn back," they called, echoing the woman's earlier warning. My pulse quickened, the weight of their presence suffocating. Desperately, I flicked on the high beams to illuminate the area, hoping to reveal some path, some escape route. But the light barely pierced the darkness. Every crevice seemed to swallow it whole, and to my utter horror, the figures grew bolder, stepping into the shadows only to vanish again, leaving the echoes of their taunting laughter ringing in my ears. Then, unexpectedly, everything changed. The road before me opened up into a sprawling landscape, a clearing illuminated by a soft glow. I slowed the truck, glancing around. Suddenly, a part of me believed I had moved beyond the encroaching nightmare. But that flicker of hope faded with the realization that all that surrounded me was desolation. Old buildings stood forlornly at the edge of the clearing, crumbling and overrun with weeds. The silence was deafening, and the atmosphere pulsed with an unnerving energy. What had once seemed like an escape now felt like a trap. That's when I remembered something crucial: my family, my wife and kids. Did they even know I was missing? A wave of guilt crashed over me, intertwining with the dread steadily knitting itself around my heart. I had to get home. The laughter returned, sharper now, mixing with the growls that echoed from the woods. A chill shot through my veins as a chilling thought entered my mind. I wasn't alone anymore. I slammed the truck into gear and peeled out of the clearing, adrenaline flooding my system. The feeling of being hunted returned full force as I sped down the road, desperate to escape whatever pursued me. But then I saw her again, the woman from before, appearing right in front of the truck, her piercing gaze almost magnetic. Time slowed as I braced for impact, certain I was about to collide with her. But she vanished just before I reached her, stepping back into the dark as if she had never been there at all. I caught my breath, whirling around to check the rearview mirror. The figures lingered ever closer now, forms defined by shadows that wove between the trees, their whispers like chilling winds. "What do you want?" I yelled, aimed at the unseen figures draping over my sanity like a veil, taunting me with memories unfit for reflection. Then it dawned on me. The urge to know, to uncover whatever dark fate had befallen her, the driver of the abandoned car, fell heavy on my shoulders.
Could my rash decisions realmente reduzir meu fate a meros momentos que eu não pudesse lograr controlar? Eu grespei ao estéreo wheel, músculos tensos. Os whispers cresciam louder, e everything around me blurred together into one vicious threat. Then it all went silent. The laughter ceased. The growling fell away. Uma haunting stillness enveloped me, and in that chilling pause, the woman reapparece again, standing in meu path na road ahead, gestirando tordo a darkeza atrás dela. "Turn back before it's too late," she whispered, her voice echoing in meu mind, while eu restele com meus escolhas, dartando glances a ela e os resounding woods. But uncertainty gripped meu heart. Was she trying to save me or lead me deeper into despair? Fear consumindo-me, eu pressei on, unable a trustar o pull de her warning against the terror que lay behind. Ultimately, whatever hunted me had yet to show its face. And as eu torrei down das road, questions swirled in meu mind like clouds blocking the moonlight, puzzles I had no answers for. Eu may have escapado a immediate danger, but the mystery the night seemed never-ending. All I knew was que it canjou how eu see things now. It haunted meus pensos, eco eu não pudesse checar, as eu me tornasse uma figura na noite, conta between worlds, forever captured by a uncerteza que lurked nas inky depths da floresta. Would I ever be free this? I suppose I wouldn't know. At least, not yet.